Members, Dr. Vincent Fang is not here yet, so I'll take the chair first. The meeting is called to order. First, we need to elect Dr. Vincent Fang is here. Oh, it's all right, since you have started. This is the Bills Committee on Promotion of Recycling and Proper Disposal, Electrical Equipment, Electronic Equipment Amendment Bill 2015, and now we need to elect the chairman. According to Schedule 4 of the House Rules, the procedures for selection of chairman, and I'd like to invite nominations from members. A valid nomination should be made orally by one member and should be seconded by at least one other member orally. And the member nominated should accept the nomination. So nominations, please. Mr. Andrew Leung, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Any seconder? Dr. Vincent Fang. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, do you accept nomination? Very much so. Any other nominations? If not, Dr. Lo, you are returned the chairman. Ipso facto. Dr. Lo, please take the chair. Thank you, members. It's my pleasure to be the chairman of this Bills Committee. Members, do you think we need a deputy chairman? No. Okay. If you don't think we need a deputy chairman, then at this juncture, we should invite the administration to come in. I need to declare interest. I have a lot of electrical and electronic equipment that needs to be disposed of, both at home and at the company. So this is my interest to be declared. I think that applies to many members. No, you have to do it at the beginning of every meeting. You voted no to that amendment, so every time we need to make this declaration. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, Chairman, can the legal advisor please explain whether this amounts to direct pecuniary interest? Legal advisor? No advice? Okay. Okay. Members. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, you have something to say? Chairman, I'd like to ask the legal advisor this question. I'm not an electrical appliance manufacturer, but the toys that I make may include electronic equipment in them. Is this related to the bill, and should I make a declaration? The legal advisor, please clarify this point. If members think that you need to make a declaration, you should do so, and it will be recorded. As to whether you have waste electronic or electrical equipment at home, I think that applies to everybody. And I think there are more products that include an electronic element in them, but since you have made the declaration, we will record that. Attending this meeting from the administration, we have Mr. Howard Chan, Deputy Director of EPD, Mr. Samson Lai, Assistant Director of EPD, Mr. Lawrence Zheng, Senior Environmental Protection Officer, and Mr. Gilbert Mo, Deputy Law Draftsman, as well as Ms. Cindy Chirk, Government Counsel. Now, I think we should ask the administration to introduce the bill before we open the floor to questions by members. Is it for Mr. Howard Chan to speak? Mr. Chan, please. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members, for joining this Bills Committee. The purpose is to provide a legal framework for the new producer responsibility scheme. The relevant information is in the LegCo brief, and I won't repeat every point. To facilitate the discussion, I will just go through the gist of this bill. We include washing machines, refrigerators, air conditioners, television sets, and computer products in this bill. We'd like to add Schedule 6 to Product Eco-Responsibility Ordinance so that there will be clear definitions of such regulated electrical equipment. As for the industry, distributors and sellers have three kinds of responsibilities. One, they have to pay the recycling fee, and distributors include importers and manufacturers who need to register with the DEP, and at regular intervals they have to pay the recycling fees on the basis of the products they sell, and this will be in accordance with the user pays principle and for cost recovery. As for the implementation details, that will be covered by a piece of subsidiary legislation. Secondly, that there should be removal service, and the removal of the product will then be given to a recycler so that it will convenience the user and also facilitate the recovery of such waste. And number 3, to provide a label and also to provide a receipt. When distribution and selling of such regulated products, these people have to provide a label so as to delineate such products, and the sellers would have to provide a receipt, and the information should detail the charging of the fee. And also there is an arrangement for the disposal of e-waste. Anyone who is involved in the storage, treatment, reprocessing or recycling of such e-waste, they must get a disposal license and they must comply with the license conditions. In order to strengthen the control and also the procedures, we have already got a provision, and we are building a facility for the recovery and recycle of regulated e-waste. But then there is still room for private recyclers to provide service. In terms of import and export, the bill proposes that any import or export must be covered by a license so as to make sure that the regulated electronic equipment will be properly handled in Hong Kong, and also to prevent international dumping in Hong Kong, and also so that re-exported such products will not be stuck in Hong Kong. And in the end, regulated electrical equipment should be able to be properly handled locally, and they should not go to landfills. That is why we propose to have provisions saying that waste disposal facilities will not accept such e-waste after the bill comes into effect. And we will be happy to take questions now. Okay, with that introduction, I'll now open the floor to members for questions. I will allow each member 7 minutes. First, Mr. Kenneth Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I have a string of questions for the administration before we go into clause-by-clause examination. Before the officials came in, I was talking with members and also the legal advisor. First of all, the title of the bill. In English, you talk about electrical equipment, and in Chinese, Din Hei Tit Bei. And the Chinese character, Hei, is the character for air. But then at a product eco-responsibility legislation stage, we used another Chinese character for Hei, and I was digging up information in order to satisfy myself as to which Chinese character should be used for Din Hei. And I like to ask why you have chosen this particular Chinese character. Is it because of certain scientific consideration? because usually we use the character that may mean a container or an equipment. However, here you use the character meaning air. So is that related to the root word for electricity? So my question is really why you chose a particular Chinese character for rendering electrical in the title of the bill. Chairman, yes, we indeed did some research into this. May I defer to Mr. Lai? Maybe the DOJ representatives can give the details. Mr. Kenneth Chan mentioned Electric Road in North Point, and in the Chinese name of that street, the same character is used as in the title of this bill. But then for this bill, we really are mainly talking about electronic equipment, including computers, which uses a lot of electronic equipment. But then the DOJ has given a lot of input into the title of the bill. Yes, Mr. Gilbert Mo, I think you can explain this to us. In the bill itself, within the provisions, you use the other Chinese character, which means equipment, but here you use the Chinese character that means air. Why is that so? Mr. Mo, well, this is for technical drafting reasons. Within the bill, because of the consideration for simplicity, we use a definitive term to represent all the equipment that is regulated under the bill. We call it regulated electrical equipment. And for equipment, we use the Chinese character which means equipment or container within the bill. That is actually a short form. We, in fact, are using a streamlined version, which is in line with the, let's say, habit of using Chinese. But in the title, we go for a general description. In the title, we like to distinguish between electrical equipment and electronic equipment. To avoid confusion, we won't use the Chinese character that means equipment. That is used only for an abridged version. And we think that is a better definitive term throughout the bill. But in the title, we can afford to use the Chinese character air. Well, I don't know whether members of the public or other colleagues are following you. One character means air, the other one means equipment. Why are the two different? I need more input or clarification by the DOJ. Are you saying that in the title, when you use the Chinese character air, it is a legal term and therefore you must use it, but within the bill, throughout the provisions, you can go for a abridged form? Is that right? So you can use the other character. Well, Mr. Mo was saying that the abridged form using the Chinese character meaning equipment would cover both electrical and electronic equipment. So that is for the sake of simplicity. But here in the title, we can distinguish between the two types of equipment. Therefore, even in Chinese, you can render them separately. Is that right? Please, Chairman, don't try to be smart. Well, there are two kinds of equipment, electrical and electronic. Yes, we know that. We want to distinguish between these two kinds of equipment in the title. So we have two terms. Electronic equipment is not to be replaced easily, but in terms of electrical equipment, if we use 電器. Since we have two kinds of equipment, in the bill, we like to combine them, so we use the Chinese character for equipment. So because of this, so the word "hey," meaning air, should not be used in either of the two kinds of products because that will create confusion. We're talking about electrical equipment and electronic equipment. And if needed, we would just say those kinds of equipment. If we use the Chinese character, "hey," meaning container, then when we use the abbreviated form, then it would create difficulties. We have to distinguish the two kinds of equipment. And we need to have the Chinese names which can correctly describe them. So we use the terms 電氣設備 to cover both types of products in Chinese. This word, 氣, meaning air, is it seldom seen? For these two kinds of waste, because you have to lump them together in certain sections of the belt, that's why you have to use that Chinese rendition. Is that right? Is it seldom used or is it commonly used in the past? In Hong Kong laws, this term is seldom used. But this term is used in other scenarios, common scenarios. For example, electrification of railways, while the Chinese rendition is also 電氣 here in the title. Legal advice, Ms. Lee. Sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah, is that all right? In caps 406G, it's using the same word, same character, 氣, as we are seeing now, 電氣產品. So that Chinese character was used before, and that in that ordinance, the English wordings are also electrical equipment. So this is not a unique term in this piece of bill. I am engineer of age. I don't call myself a senior engineer. In fact, in the electrical equipment, this term, well, the Chinese character has been used very often. If we go to the clause-by-clause scrutiny, we can take a further look on these two characters. And then we can decide whether it is inappropriate. I would like to seek clarification on the rationale. If we go to clause-by-clause scrutiny, then we can further look at whether the characters used in the particular sections are appropriate. Ms. Lee. Sorry, speaker's off mic. Sorry. Cap 406G refers to electrical products. This type is electrical equipment. And for these two ordinances, the Chinese character 氣, meaning air, is also used. This is a very good question. I think we should come up with the right Chinese translations. Mr. Vincent Fang, followed by Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Mr. Charles Mock, Mr. Vincent Fang. Thank you, Chairman. I have another type of view. I think this word is used correctly because people are asked to pay and they are angry. And this Chinese character reflects exactly that. I am not against this paper. In the EA panel,
I've said that I don't support the government charging a fee. But in this paper, the government says it will implement measures to recycle e-waste. And I think this is right. If you leave it to other recyclers, then that will be a very costly process. And in environmental protection initiatives, most of them involve losses. So it's good that the government would be spending on establishing a treatment facility. We are talking about 5 types of products: washing machines, fridges, air conditioners, television sets, and computer products. I would like to ask, if the products do not fall within these 5 categories, it's 6 types. For example, dehumidifier in a household. If it goes out of function, can that be taken to this treatment plant? Or you would say that, sorry, because it falls outside the 5 categories and it will not be accepted. What about electrical equipment and computers carry a high value, and there is a good or active second-hand market? Computer products can be sold second-hand for a high price, and people would not just discard them casually. So would it in effect become 4 types of products instead of 5? Mr. Chen, I would be responding, and then I'll ask Mr. Lai to supplement. A product falling outside of these 5 categories, now we do have a voluntary recycling program run by St. James Settlement. There will be recycling products not within these 5 categories, and also for the treatment plant to be built at Eco Park. Well, we've just signed a contract with the operator. We'll discuss them with them whether they would be recycling products falling outside of these 5 categories. Of course, they must first recycle these 5 types of products. If they have a spare capacity and they can handle it, we would ask them to deal with the products outside these 5 categories as well. As for the second-hand market for these products, in accordance with our contract, it doesn't mean that they have to be recycled or dismantled. Well, in the contract, there is a provision stating that the products can be not be dismantled, but rather recycled and then used and sold in the second-hand market too. Mr. Vincent Fang, there is a second-hand market for computer products usually, and because of this, people will not be asking you to recycle or the computer products. And for the money earned or generated, will it be used to subsidize the operation of this treatment facility, or will the money go to the treasury? I don't agree to the money going back to the treasury or the general revenue account, because this is money generated from environmental protection initiatives, so it should be used for that purpose ultimately too. To our understanding, in the contract, the operator is required to provide estimates on the money generated through recycling the products. Then the money will be used to subsidize their operating costs. So that can also help reduce the recycling fee. So all the money generated will be plowed back to the operation of the treatment facility, and then that will help cut the recycling cost. Mr. Vincent Fang, the recyclers, Does it mean that the recyclers will be forced out of business? Does it mean that the recyclers can continue to recover the computer products? Are they allowed to do so? Mr. Chairman, the regulation has to do with storage and treatment of products. They have to get a license. But then if they are just recovering the products, they do not need to get a license. For recyclers who have to store the products, and if their storage area is not exempted under our proposal, then they still have to get a license. Well, what is the exemption condition? Mr. Lai. The volume. For storage, the premises with an area of not more than 100 square meters will be exempted. During our consultation, we found that recyclers may very likely transform their operation, and then they may also pass over the products to the treatment plant that we're going to build, so their livelihood will not be affected. They can also reuse the products recovered, right? Yes. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. If the bill is enacted, it will have great implications on importers, manufacturers, and also consumers. The government has always been saying that they will go by the polluter pays principle, but then the government still hasn't come up with a figure or the level of recycling fee. They said that it will be charged on a cost recovery basis. Can the government give us more details on the fee level? At the Finance Committee, we have allocated $500 million to build this recycling facility. And what about the recurrent operating costs? We still don't know yet. How will the fee be leveled in the future based on the product type or the value of the products, or what? 1% of every $10,000? I think the government should give us a clear picture now. Also, many people buy products overseas or online, and some Hong Kong people will buy products in Hong Kong and take them to elsewhere. If they buy products in Hong Kong, then the fee will be leveled and will be included in the price. But if they leave, they get the products out of Hong Kong, would there be a rebate? And or a refund rather, if we buy something online and it's in type of a parallel goods, how will you deal with it? For the overseas manufacturers, if the products are distributed in Hong Kong, should the overseas manufacturers be held responsible as well? I think we have to be clear on that as well. Now, if we go to a department store or electrical goods appliance companies and then buy a product from a goods dealer, then we actually can get the parts and components and then you assemble them into a proper product. One of those in the 5 categories. So if this is what's happening, how will the government deal with it? How will the government control it? How would you monitor the recycling of these products? Sometimes these products may be discarded on the streets and they will be recycled, gathered or recovered by the recyclers. With regard to the fee levels, we would go by the principle of cost recovery. In the public consultation document, we have taken reference from fee levels in other jurisdictions, and we have listed some reference prices. Small appliances, for example, TV sets, $100.
If we're talking about refrigerators, washing machines, normally $200 to $250. And this is what is listed in the public consultation document. After analyzing the procurement cost in the agreement of the WEEE-TRF, we would be proposing fees that are not higher than those in the consultation document. But then the actual fees would be stated in a piece of subsidiary legislation for the scrutiny of LegCo. As for assembling of computers, if people buy computer equipment and assemble a computer, we will not charge them. But if you operate an assembly line or if you manufacture computers, they will be defined as suppliers, and they will have to take up producer responsibility for these computers, including paying the recycling fee. As for buying overseas or online, I'd like to defer to Mr. Lai. Chairman, this bill cannot regulate anything that is outside Hong Kong. If a distributor or a supplier operates overseas, the bill does not have that kind of jurisdiction over them. The market operation in Hong Kong is such that the majority of EE are imported by an agent. We believe it is appropriate to charge the recycling fee. I think you have a further question, Mr. Lam. Yes. I think the administration has not answered my question. On fee charging, you go for full cost recovery, you said. But if you charge $100, or $200, I can't see how you can recover cost. It's quite mind-boggling. And Chairman, I think you are aware that there are parallel goods, and you cannot have any control over them. That is a big loophole. You can't just say the bill has no jurisdiction over that, and therefore you don't want to deal with it. In scrutiny of the bill, I think we should also think about how we can deal with that, because the manufacturers and importers already take up a big responsibility. But if people buy overseas or online, then who is going to take up the responsibility? Mr. Chairman, I think you also have certain questions. Or should I ask follow-up questions? Well, actually, I was trying to ask supplementary questions on your behalf. Mr. Chen, the fee is not charged on the basis of the value of that equipment. Rather, we are trying to recover cost of the treatment and recycling, and we just differentiate the equipment into big or small ones, and also we have to look at the complexity of the treatment that is required. And after calling a tender, we understand those are the reasonable fee levels. But I don't think you should just go for the size of the equipment concerned, because sometimes the electronic equipment can be very complicated and it is not comprehensible to the average layperson. Maybe you should give us some reference by looking at overseas examples. I think when we conduct a public hearing, I'm sure this question will be raised, and I believe we should look into it. You mentioned private assembling of computers or buying overseas or online. In other words, when people go for parallel products, there is no way you can charge them the recycling fee. But in the end, they might still be treated in Hong Kong. And in a way, you are now already subsidizing a dismantling plant. Will this then be unfair to Hong Kong consumers? I mean, consumers who actually buy in the Hong Kong market. Mr. Chen or Mr. Lai? Chairman, I can add. In Schedule 6, we would list the different kinds of electrical equipment, and a fee is attached to each kind of equipment, so the fee is very clear. As for parallel goods, we have looked at the market. If we are talking about the large electrical appliances for domestic use, very rarely are they brought back into Hong Kong privately. Very often we have to go to an importer or a distributor, and if that is the case, the bill can already cover it. As for computer products, some are really small. We may be talking about handheld computers. When students go overseas or come to Hong Kong to study, they may be bringing into Hong Kong such small-sized computers, and they may buy online as well. We have looked at the situation. We don't think the number is a big one. And in terms of recycling, there is a smaller volume compared to the other 4 types of electrical equipment, because actually the recovery fee is high, and that is why they get circulated instead of being dumped. Therefore, we don't think it is a big problem of people avoiding the recycling fee, so they buy online. Therefore, we have struck this balance. And if we also want to regulate electrical equipment brought into Hong Kong, then we will have to cast a very wide scope for the scope of this piece of legislation, because quite a number of people may bring back electrical equipment. And after striking a balance, we think the present level of control is appropriate. But what about people in Hong Kong taking the electrical equipment to a dismantling plant or to a recycler, and this equipment will be recovered, and then no fee is payable? Next, Mr. Charles Mok, to be followed by Mr. Andrew Leung. Thank you, Chairman. At the panel, I mentioned the definition of computer. If I may look at the bill, I know we will come to this when we do clause by clause, but I'd like to take the opportunity to ask you about the definition of computer. And as you know, depending on the circumstance, if you talk about the offense of access or accessing a computer with dishonest content, then a dishonest intent, it would include a mobile phone and a digital camera. But here you have set out in the bill to say that that would not be included. However, I'm still concerned as to whether the definition is sufficient. You include tablet computers, but then you also say that if the primary use is for the equipment to be used as a phone, then we don't know where to draw the line. Does it mean that the screen should be of a certain size before it is regarded as a computer? But as you know, some tablet computers can also hold a SIM card. And as members were saying, maybe the recycling value may be high, and therefore the tablet computer may not be returned to the manufacturer. And since the storage space required will not be big, and also because the computer may hold a lot of personal information, so they may not want to just dump it. And I'd like to ask this question now. If I dismantle the product and I take away some of the equipment, can I still take it to a recycler? And then can the recycler reject it? Let's say a notebook computer vis-a-vis a desktop. Chairman, people may choose to still keep the hard disk because of the personal information kept in the hard drive. And many people just don't dump it because they may want to copy it to a new hard drive when they want to. So sometimes they just put it away. Will this affect the recycler in any way? will the recycler be able to say this is not a complete set and I want to reject it? Can that be done? Or is it that it's just up to the price that will be negotiated? Can you give us some explanation? Mr. Chan, 2 questions. The second question is outside the jurisdiction of the bill because this is about the operation of the recycling plant. Now, the St. James's settlement and also Characters Hong Kong are helping out, and in fact dismantling will not affect the situation. Rather, I think many people keep the hard drive because they don't want to leak any personal information. Even if some equipment is taken out, I don't think recycling will be rejected. So you can be reassured. As for the definition of computer, I think we can go into the details when we do clause by clause. But then in Schedule 6, there are 3 parts. In the first part, there are 2 paragraphs. First, that the computer is cast in a wider scope, that it is an electronic apparatus that is used for the storage, processing, and retrieval of electronic data. And secondly, that it is sold as a computer. Now, if it is a camera, and if in another piece of legislation with a wider scope, it might be regarded as a computer, but here that is not the case. Secondly, a mobile phone will not be included. At the panel and also at the PWSC, we explained that very often smartphones are used again as second-hand products, so it is not necessary to include mobile phones in the definition. Number 3, we look after products that may include more than one part. Say a computer may include a screen, a printer, and other uses. So if it fits in with the definition here, that equipment would be regarded as a computer. So these are the 3 parts, and we welcome comments from members. Chairman, later on when the industry comes along, I'm sure they will want to comment on this. Just now I heard you talk about online purchases. Can you please give us more details? Whether it be a website that is a local one and an overseas one, people can even buy a washing machine online now. Is this included in the bill? Will such a behavior be included in the bill? That is online shopping. Can I ask the DOJ to comment on extraterritorial distributors and how the bill affects them? Mr. Mo. Chairman, the definition of supplier is in new clause 31. The mechanism of the bill targets suppliers, and supplier means a person who manufactures regulated EE in Hong Kong in the course of the person's business, and a person who causes to be imported into Hong Kong regulated EE for distribution in the course of the person's business. So an overseas seller will not be included in the definition of supplier. Maybe later on, the administration can think about a possibility, because very often you cannot define a seller as local or overseas. And I'm talking about websites. Should they have a domain name .hk before it is regarded as a Hong Kong website? On the face of it, some companies are overseas companies, but they have a branch in Hong Kong. When we talk about the online world, it's very difficult sometimes to distinguish between overseas and Hong Kong operations, and I'm afraid there may be some uncertainties.
and then we may have disputes as to whether they are covered under the bill. The government representative said that the ratio of online purchase remains relatively low for the moment, but well, things may change, and even a car can now be bought online. So don't think that people are just buying computers online. They can even buy washing machines and other electrical appliances online as well. How can you differentiate whether a website is in Hong Kong or elsewhere? Should you be making things clearer in that regard? So I now raise this question, so maybe industry representatives will raise further questions on this regard. On the definition under Section 31, there is a definition of supplier here. It's, well, simply put, it is the goods are manufactured in Hong Kong or the goods are imported into Hong Kong. Several members have raised similar questions. The products may get into Hong Kong in channels other than what we normally consider as ordinary channels. They may, the products may be bought online, and the goods may be parallel goods. And some, Mr. Jeffrey Lam also talked about private assembly of components and into a product. So there may be a loophole in the bills as long as there people can try to assemble the parts, and they will be not covered. They will not be covered by the bill. So these are the questions that we want to raise during the scrutiny of the bill, and we hope to get a clearer answer from the administration. And I believe that members of the public will raise similar questions when they come here for the public hearing. If I say I order a product into Hong Kong, will that be covered as well? So after the meeting today, can the administration consider this, and that is before the next meeting, give us something in writing to clarify those points? Mr. Andrew Lang, followed by Ms. Sid Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to supplement. I have recently bought a computer with the brand name of a fruit, a type of fruit. If you want a made-to-order product, and then if you place an order, the product will be shipped directly to you from Singapore. Well, it would depend. We will have to see whether the company will sort of declare the product. So likewise, a number of renowned brands of computers can do online transactions. Now, if the computer is imported into Hong Kong, well, I may have to pay an extra $150. But then if I order the goods directly to be shipped from Singapore, then that can circumvent the bill, so that it can be done. So the government must give us a clear position on this, or else young people will try to go down that route. Well, this is not my main question. It just came to my mind, this issue. Now, I support this bill or initiative, but I am disappointed because up to this very moment, the government does not tell us how much they're going to charge on each product. How can we legislate with that? How can we consult the public? Well, you can charge as much as $5,000. You haven't said anything on the price, and you said that you would be doing it on a cost recovery basis. Well, the price may be very different if you ask an NGO to do it or a business, a company to do it. So if you don't give me specific fee levels, I won't endorse the bill. Now, if you say now that it's $100 to $200, but then you end up in $300, then that's no good at all, very problematic. You said that you will be setting the fee by way of subsidiary legislation in the future. Well, that is not good enough. You must name a price level now, or else I won't support the bill. Secondly, I want to ask, how does the money flow? You said that you will charge a fee, but how does the fee sort of flow through the different parties? If you don't give us a clear picture now, then the importers will take you to task, and also the distributors will also take you to task. Where will the money go? How the fee will flow? You have to give us a paper telling us clearly how the fee will be charged and where it will go. And also for fee increases in the future, what will it be linked to? You must give us information. A manufacturer may find him in a position that the fewer products he produces, the higher will be the cost. Then that would be something that is problematic. We have to be answerable to the consumers. Without a fee level, a specific level, how can we scrutinize the bill, and also where will the money go? With regard to the fee levels, in the public consultation document, we said that for small appliances, $100, large appliances, fridges, washing machines, $200 to $250. And what we can undertake now is that the fee level will not be higher than those listed in the consultation document. Well, some members said that it will be as high as $5,000. That will never happen. But if Mr. Leung wants us to prepare a document with detailed information on the fee, then we can do that. As for the charging method, I think we have been pretty clear on that. We have discussed with the industry and we have forged a consensus, and that is the supplier, based on the quantity of products distributor will provide us with information on the sale, and then we will charge a fee on that. We would not deal with it on a retail level. Perhaps later on we can give you more detailed information to give you an idea of how the flow of the fee charging mechanism will be done. Why can't the government give us a specific figure now? And also in the future, adjustment of fees. What criteria will you factor in or will you use? You say that it's $300 now, but you can raise it to as high as $5,000. I understand the government would do that because that would not do that because that will infuriate people. But then you still have to give us a very information on the mechanism to be adopted. You said that it will be from $100 to $250. Why can't you fix a price level and then come back, say, in the next meeting, next meeting, and tell us? And then that will facilitate our discussion and scrutiny of the bill. Then we will have a very good idea of whether it's 100 or 250 or what. So these are the issues that you have to deal with now. And also the fee adjustment mechanism. How will that be done? That's also very important. Mr. Chan said that he will give us a paper on the flow chart. Or can you give us a flow chart in that piece of paper? And that includes the how the money flows and also how the products are being channeled through the whole process, and also the various responsibilities of the stakeholders in the process. Chairman, please also ask him to say something about fee increase, the mechanism to be involved. Mr. Lang has made his point very clearly. I would like to ask a question too. Why don't you use a table or appendix to set out the charging mechanism? And if you want to make adjustment, then you can do it on the basis of that table. We have to review the fee regularly in the future based on the operating cost of the WEETRF. So if we can do it by way of a subsidiary legislation, then the difficulties of doing it will be reduced. If we have to include it as a table in the bill, then it may take longer if we want to adjust the fee in the future. Mr. Lai, I understand your question. Why don't we do it all at one go? I think it's a question of chicken and egg. We know that for this PRS, we do need to establish this WEERTRF. We've been planning for this TRF, and we've done tendering and so on, and that takes time. And then we have to actually look that the members usually would like to see that this project of the TRF is ongoing before we would consider the bill. So we have just got the funding for the building of the WETRF, and then we have to look at how it operates before we can come up with the fee level. And then after that is done, then we would give you all the details in the form of a subsidiary legislation to be vetted by the electrical. We don't accept that. If you don't give us this specific price level and you are given room to maneuver on the price level, then I won't accept it. Perhaps you will say that at the outset it will be $100, and then next year you may increase it to $200. And also the plant will not be operating on commercial principles. It will be sort of NGO type of operation, and an NGO operates very differently from a business entity. And then you say that the consumers will shoulder also part of the costs, then that has wide implications. So I hope the government can come up with a paper on how you are going to recover the costs, and also if the plant is operating poorly and then high costs involved, what will you do? So we have to look at all these very carefully. We can't issue just a blank check to the government and then the government can fill in the amount later on. So this is something that the government must consider. So in your supplementary paper, can you tell us clearly that that the plant, the recycling facility, will be subsidized by the government? But in that case, how can it operate effectively? Is it the case that the plants will not have the incentive to do a proper job? And if that is the case, then the consumers will suffer ultimately. So how can you have a proper monitoring mechanism so that everything is in order? Ms. Sito. Thank you, Chairman. On fee charging and how to use the money, the fee received, or shall it be the fee be paid by the consumers and so on? All these issues we have to discussed at length. But for the paper presented to us, we don't see how the whole thing will work. And also the fees collected, will you be giving the money to the NGO who is running the operation? And also, you will be asking an NGO to do it. An NGO doesn't operate on business principles, and a lot of NGOs operate with an educational element in it? And in the operation, will there be an education element? And that cannot be included in how you assess the operation.
All along, we say if an industry does not have a private operation who can operate on commercial principles, the administration should first of all subsidize with land and money and other resources. But on the other hand, we want to ask whether there will be the need for long-term operation so that it will never become a commercial operation. If that is the case, we may come to one view. And the chairman said just now that if people bring in parallel goods or other goods and people are not charged the fee, and yet in the end they will be able to recycle the product, and it's unfair for people who have paid the fee. But on the other hand, what about people who take the computer out of Hong Kong if they emigrate or go away to study, and they have already paid the fee when they purchased the computer? So will you reimburse the fee to these people? So we have talked about consumers having to buy a coupon or a stamp when they buy an electrical appliance, and when you need somebody to recycle it, then you can pay for it with a coupon. And as I was saying, if people go away to study and they take away a tablet computer, then the stamp can be sold to other people or can be exchanged for money. That is something you can do. But of course, I know this is the product of a very protracted negotiation with the industry. However, you have to look at these gaps. If somebody did not buy from manufacturers or importers from Hong Kong and they have bought online or they bring in the product themselves, still they have to pay, because we are talking about user pays instead of wholesalers pay. It's up to the individual consumer. Someone may have 3-4 computers, 3-4 mobile phones at the same time, and they should pay for those appliances. If you are really thinking about the environment, it should be consumer pays. And also people may emigrate, they may study overseas. They have already paid the recycling fee upon purchase of the electrical appliances, and to be fair, you should refund them. Mr. Chan, we already explained that if you buy overseas or if these are parallel products, we have already said that it is difficult operationally. I understand that. Very often there are operational difficulties when you talk about protecting the environment. It is also difficult for you to charge for the use of shopping bags. No, Ms. Sitho is talking about taking the appliances out of Hong Kong when they have already paid the recycling fee. Since we are mentioning plastic shopping bags, I can see that your bureau makes use of very different standards. A plastic bag is defined to be a bag with a string. At the end of the string, there is a small plastic element. And what about the Kindle by Amazon? You can also go online. It's just that the monitor is not a good one. You call that a computer. Who will take the question? Chairman, we have got the allocation to build the TRF at the Echo Park. It is not to be operated by an NGO. It is a commercial operation using overseas technology and local experience. I believe we can regard it as an operation of a certain scale. And when we sought the allocation, we already said the building cost would be about $500 million and the annual recurrent cost will be about $200 million. We are proposing a fee for new products on the basis of such costs. We are doing the projection now. Ms. Sitho mentioned parallel goods and whether they can be charged a disposal fee. At the time of public consultation, this was the first option that was dismissed. Only Japan has adopted that approach. Other places have chosen to charge new products at source. The main concern is if we were to charge a disposal fee, it may give rise to illegal dumping, and there will be no incentive to promote recycling. Also, you mentioned products that are taken out of Hong Kong upon emigration. The one important part of the recycling plan is that before it kicks into action, the regulated EE will still be accepted without a recycling fee. Therefore, we have looked at the entire plan, and these are the figures that we have come up with. And what we are proposing is a little lower than those in the consultation document, and the details can be included in a supplementary paper. What about e-reader? What about Kobo and Kindle from Amazon? I need to understand those products better first. We are talking about Kindle from Amazon. You mean you don't understand what it is? It has been with us for many years. You are an official looking after this bill. You mean you don't know what they are? I need to get more understanding. Well, I think there are definitions within the industry, and we can look deeper into it when we come to clause-by-clause examination. Second round, Mr. Kenneth Chan, followed by Mr. Andrew Leung. Please, I am into the styling of the terms and also the title of the bill. It is because when I studied other bills, I saw other ways of expression which did not give rise to the questions I asked just now. I can understand what Mr. Mo is saying. You are talking about domestic appliances and also electronic products, including computers and screens, and that is why you need to have two terms. One, electrical equipment, in Chinese, using the character meaning air, and the other one, electronic equipment. I have seen other documents, and also it is mentioned in this bill, and I like to talk about two expressions. One, e-waste. You have even defined it, and it would include all the items to be regulated. You call it e-waste, and in Chinese, you call it 電器廢物, using the Chinese character meaning equipment. In fact, it is already done in such a way in the bill, so maybe you can do so as well for the title of the bill. And also, in previous papers and papers table today, you talk about we waste electrical and electronic equipment, WEEE. So you already have a term that is an expression that uses the Chinese character for electrical, meaning equipment. So the ball is now in your court. You should give this some consideration. Just now I already said that I'm sure you won't be compelled to withdraw the bill just because I'm raising such textual or diction problems. As a legislator, maybe I need to explain to the public, and I cannot just tell them, look at North Point, we have an electric road, and that is why we can use the word in Chinese that means air. Since in this blue bill and also in the administration's papers, I believe some expressions are quite clear in Chinese and English. So do you really want to do what you have done for the title of this bill? I will give you some time to consider this before we revisit the issue. I'm also interested in the policy questions raised by other members, but this is not the first time I have said it, and that is the Civic Party supports improving the producer responsibility scheme. So we embrace it, and in Hong Kong, we should not export such e-waste to other places. And I'm talking about environmental justice because it is not right. It is immoral. And we don't want other places with a lower dismantling technology to have to handle such e-waste because the children will be affected by a level of lead in their blood, which is much higher than children in other places. That is quite unacceptable, especially when babies are already affected when they are born. Reading the papers, apart from the fee level and the process and what is meant by import, export, etc., there is a part that is about exemption, and that is whether you need a license to process or handle e-waste. You have given some definitions, or you have drawn some scenarios. Say, for example, the area is smaller than 100 square meters, and also if you have a storage or stockpiling within a multi-story building. But to me, the wording is far from clear. If you ask me, I'm not really concerned about the size of the area, but the level of technology. It may be a small area, but if the level of technology is very low, then there will still be metal contamination or metallic contamination of the soil. And also, because of storage problems, there may be the risk of fire in certain places. And this has nothing to do with the size or area of the place. Also, in multi-story buildings, you don't ask them to take out a license, but this is not clear at all because you are assuming that the storage will be clear if it is in a multi-story building. Well, yes, there are things that should happen, but they don't. But I don't mean to digress here. I just ask you, we should actually narrow down the scope of the exemption. At least you need to be more specific. You know, when people do business, they might want to scatter the operation so they don't need to take out a license. On the one hand, we want to do something good, but on the other hand, we provide the loopholes for people who would exploit them. We actually don't mean to give exemption to people who actually handle e-waste, but if you allow such exemptions, I think that will be the source of trouble. And my question now for you is, how many such recyclers do you think can continue to operate without taking out a license? That is, on the basis that they are in multi-story buildings or they operate within a small area. And next time, I need to get a paper from you and on a question I raised in previous budget debates, and that is the number of fires that have happened in recycling plants. You have given me figures for previous years, but not for 2014. These recycling plants may be storing waste plastic, tires, and other products. I'd like to know whether there is a trend of more fires happening, and then we can have a basis for narrowing down the scope of exemption. Mr. Chen, we can provide the figures later. I'd just like to make a point. After public consultation, we need to strike a balance. Is it that we want to regulate all recycling plants of different sizes? And after the public consultation, we are proposing some exemptions. However, still, even if they do not need to take out a license under the bill, these shops or locations are still regulated by other laws, including those on labor, fire services, town planning, environmental protection, etc. It is not that they are not regulated. It's just that they do not need to take out another license because of the commencement of the bill. This is a proposal made after striking a balance. Mr. Chen, of course, we understand you have communicated with the industry and struck a balance, but Mr. Chan is asking about the exemptions and where you draw the line for the size of the area. I'm sure you have done consultation. I'm sure you have some figures to support your argument. Mr. Chan is asking for all the details. And it is not whether you have the laws, people should not jaywalk anyway, because there are laws for road safety. But I'd like you to tell me how you can give us the confidence when we scrutinize the bill that you only look at the forests but not the trees, and you exempt people who should be regulated.
So I want to be clear about the relevant measures and how you would enforce the law under the existing ordinance. I believe that Mr. Chan understands your demand. Mr. Andrew Lang. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Lai said that the plant will be operated on commercial principles. I agree with that. And we talked about St. James Settlement, which is an NGO. Well, I assume that you would do tendering, and then the plant will be operated on commercial principles. But then this is the sole operator of such facilities, and we have to be very concerned about the costs and the recovery of costs. You have talked for a long time to the importers. Say if you charge $150 for every product, have you got the promise from the importers and retailers that they would not be passing on the extra fee to the consumers? I am involved in some retail activities myself. For $100, there would be a markup of 20%, some 50%, and some even 100%. So you have to pay attention to the markup percentage. So if you talk about $100, are consumers asked to pay $100 or $120, or is there no guarantee at all? And the importers may pass on the fee to the distributors, and the distributors will pass on the fee to the retailers and then on to consumers. So ultimately, the consumers will have to pay $150 instead of $100. So in your discussion, have you paid attention to that kind of working? In your discussions with the importers and distributors, have you taken note of that point? In our discussions with the industry told us that we should charge at the upstream level, because if you go to the downstream levels, we're talking about SMEs and numerous retail outlets, and if we do that at that level, then it would be very difficult to handle. So our consensus is that the fee should be charged at the upstream portion of the chain. Now, as to how they are going to apportion the fees, we didn't have in-depth discussions. And also under the bill, there is no requirement on how the costs or the fees should be shared out among the different stakeholders. There is a consensus, though, that at the retail level, the sellers must issue a receipt to the consumers, and in that receipt, there should be a clear statement saying that the product is already included in the recycling plan, and according to the law, $150 will be paid to the government. So that would be able to let the consumers know that in the retail price, the $150 is already included. I believe that even if you charge the fee at the import level, the fee will be passed on to the consumers ultimately. And consumers can appreciate that, because consumers should also be sort of responsible for the recycling. Now, what the member is concerned that will there be continuous markups throughout the supply chain by different stakeholders in the chain. So, Mr. Lai, you haven't answered that question. My answer is that in the bill, there is no requirement on whether there should be markup and how the fee should be shared out among the different levels. Well, we do have a consensus that there should be a clear statement in the sort of receipt that a recycling fee of what amount has already been included in the retail level. Well, the fee will be charged at the upstream, but then at the downstream, at the consumer's level, then the consumers will know that $150 of recycling fee is being paid. Now, if the consumers found that the fee is unreasonable, then they can raise concerns. Any other questions? This is the first meeting of the Bills Committee. Our members have raised a number of questions. Legal advisor, do you have anything to add? Thank you, Chairman. Many members have asked about parallel imports, whether a fee should be charged, and so on. The drafting administration, Mr. Mo, said that there is a definition of supply in the Blue Bill. I hope that when the administration gives us a paper later on, telling us what products will be subject to a fee, can you also mention about something about Section 37? And it has to do with the registered supply must pay recycling fee and the conditions for them to do so. If this can be dealt together with the definition of the supplier, then that will give us a better understanding of how everything works. And also the legal division also raised a question on Section 37. The scope of the bill. So the administration, when you give us a paper later on, can you also answer that question as well? Mr. Lang, just now, also mentioned about subsidiary legislation. Everyone wants to know the fee level and how the fee will be charged and so on. So if the chairman agrees, then we can take a look at Section 44.3. It says that based on Section 37, the amount of recycling fee paid under Section 37 is not limited by reference to the amount of administrative or other costs incurred or likely to be incurred in the provision of any particular service, facility, or matter. In other words, the costs or the fees should not just be confined to the administrative costs involved. So, can the government give us more information on this section 44.3, so that we can have a better understanding on how the government will recover the costs and how the charging mechanism will be like? Yes, we agree to that. The administration can give us more information on the several issues raised. If we don't have any further questions, well, I believe that everyone will agree that we need to invite the public to give us their views. Members have already said that they think that there is a need to invite public views. The members can refer to the proposed list of deputations to be invited for the public hearing. This is not an exhaustive list. If you have other suggestions on bodies to be invited, please notify the clerk. Yes, you do have some other names. The list is not exhaustive, I believe. So please give the names of bodies you think should be invited to the clerk. And also, the Bills Committee will also post up a notice on the LegCo website and issue invitation letters to the 18 district councils. The clerk has also proposed time slots for meetings. I believe that you would like to have meeting with deputations ASAP, because that will help in our scrutiny work. So we propose a meeting with deputations first, and that is for Monday, 4th of May, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And other time slots for our meeting, 28th of May, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. 15th of June, 10:45 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. and 7th of July, 10:45 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. I should be available during those time slots. You may not know now whether you are available. This clerk will consult you again on the proposed meeting time. Any question on first the meeting on the 4th of May? Administration? No problem? Yes, no problem. So we'll fix it at the 4th of May for meeting with deputations. The meeting should last till 4:30 p.m. But then this is the first meeting. I will not use up all the meeting time. I think we've raised a number of good questions already. Dr. Kenneth Chen, we've done scrutiny of similar bills, and the legal advisor will have correspondences with the administration. And Chairman, please ask the administration to respond ASAP to our questions. Say if we decide to have the meeting on the 4th of May, and before that meeting, if the legal advisor has passed on to some questions to the administration, please give us a reply before the 4th of May. And if we can't have the answers before the meeting, then that would be best. I believe that the administration understands our needs to facilitate our scrutiny. Please give us the information ASAP, give replies to the legal advisor's questions ASAP. So that's it for today's meeting. Thank you very much.